Hi, Paul here from Photo Genius. Now, mirrorless DSLR cameras, which one is for you? This video is called DSLR versus mirrorless cameras, but it's not a battle. Do you go for the larger camera? Do you go for the smaller camera? Well, there's pros and cons of both formats, and what I want to try and do in this video is explain some of those to you so you can be a bit better informed and maybe make the right decision about which camera you buy. Now, before we get into the pros and cons of both cameras, I think the best place to begin is to look at and try and understand what part does the mirror play in the larger DSLR camera. And to explain how this works, I think I'm going to have to draw you a diagram. This very rough diagram is not to scale and not particularly technical, but will help explain the purpose of the mirror. We start with the lens, then the camera body, and this is your eye looking through the viewfinder on the back of the camera. Inside the lens we have a number of glass elements, and inside the camera is the sensor. In front of the sensor is the mirror. Notice that it is set at an angle. This next part is called a pentaprism. When we take a photo, light passes through the lens. The mirror then bounces the light upwards and out of the viewfinder via the pentaprism. This enables us to see through the lens. With the lens removed from the camera, you can clearly see the mirror inside the camera body. When the shutter button is pressed, the mirror moves up and out of the way, so the light can then hit the sensor, which is located behind the mirror. So as we can see from the diagram, the mirror plays an important part because the mirror reflects the light up into the viewfinder, meaning that when I put this camera up to my eye, I am actually looking through the lens. And for a lot of people, this is a big benefit. It can be particularly useful at night time or when you're shooting in low light as well, because with a DSLR camera, you generally get a much brighter view through the viewfinder than you do with the smaller mirrorless cameras. And that's because these have an electronic viewfinder. But the mirror and all the mechanical parts that need to move the mirror up and down add a lot of bulk and weight to a camera like this. So if you're the type of photographer that wants to travel light, then already the mirrorless camera here has the advantage. Now when it comes to buying accessories and in particular lenses, you're going to find there is a lot more available for the DSLR type camera. Now this should be no surprise when we consider how long this type of camera has been around for compared to the mirrorless camera. And of course before digital SLR cameras we had film SLR cameras, and what you'll find is a lot of the old lenses that fit the film cameras also fit on the digital SLR cameras. So as well as the new lenses, you can also pick up some old lenses as well, quite cheap. Now with the smaller mirrorless camera, don't get me wrong, there's a good range of options out there, there's a good range of lenses out there, but not nearly as many as there are for the DSLR as yet. The gap is starting to narrow. Also when it comes to pricing, you'll find you get more bang for your buck with the DSLR camera. So I think here in terms of options, particularly lenses and also pricing, I think the DSLR camera has the upper hand. Now let's talk autofocus. Now this will be of particular interest if you like taking pictures of moving subjects, which could simply be your kids running around in the park having fun, more likely sports or pictures of the dog in the dog park. When it comes to autofocus, generally we find the DSLR cameras here have the upper hand once again. Certainly a lot quicker when it comes to focusing on moving subjects. Now with some of the newer mirrorless cameras, in particular some of the newer Sonys, we're finding again that it's catching up. But if sports photography or just taking pictures of things that move is your thing, then again you might want to consider the DSLR over the mirrorless. Now let's talk image stabilization, which is a function that is trying to help eliminate and reduce handshake, which can lead to blurry photos. Now with the mirrorless cameras, good news. This is a function built into the actual camera itself. Image stabilization is the normal name. With the Sony cameras they call this steady shot. Now with the DSLR camera, this is not sadly built into the camera itself. This is a function that is built into the lenses but only some lenses. Not all lenses have this, and if you've got it, chances are you've paid a bit more for it, but it is worth it. It's a great function. Nikon call this VR, vibration reduction. Canon, image stabilization, and vibration correction is another make. So with the DSLR cameras, you have to pay a bit more for it, and it's available in some lenses but not all lenses. With the mirrorless cameras, it's built into the camera anyway, so you reap the benefits here. Now here, I think we can see that the mirrorless camera, when it comes to stabilization, has the advantage. Now we're going to consider batteries. Now, whilst not a deal breaker, you are going to find that you get more photos to a fully charged battery if you're using a DSLR than a mirrorless camera, for two reasons. Size. With the bigger camera, you get a bigger battery. With the smaller camera, you get a smaller battery. So you'll get more pictures with the larger battery because it has more capacity. Now also you need to consider that with the mirrorless cameras, you are relying on the LCD screen and also the electronic viewfinder a lot more. With the larger camera, the viewfinder is not electronic, so there's no drain on the battery. So again, it's not a big deal breaker when it comes to deciding which camera you go for, and the best solution here, I guess, is to buy a couple of batteries. So DSLR versus mirrorless, which is the best? Well, they're both great cameras because they are cameras designed for different reasons. I think the key here is to pick a camera that suits you and your type of photography. If you're keen on going traveling, then having a camera that is light and compact is probably a good thing. This type of camera, the mirrorless camera, is great for documenting your travels and landscape photography. If, however, you want to take a picture of things that move, I'm thinking kids, sports, movement, maybe animals, then this DSLR may be the way to go because it offers that faster autofocus system. Clearly, pros and cons of both camera type. So think about the camera you're most likely to use. For some people, a smaller camera is better simply because it's the camera they're more likely to grab and take out and use. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and you found it informative. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. You should find a link somewhere over here. I release videos every week about cameras, tutorials, tips and reviews. I hope to see you sometime again soon. See ya!